So when the news would have come out, if I had resorted to this, because I didn't need to, everybody quickly acquiesced and did everything I needed them to do. So I did not have to actualize my threats. But I let them know. When the story came out that the same girl that we all loved on that show, this nice, sweet, beautiful girl, helping these people selflessly and without pay, on her way to this hospice to do volunteer work, she was assaulted by this thug and defended herself the only way she could by hitting with pepper spray and running. She ended up being arrested, and now they're charging her with felony assault, and even though she's never even gotten a jaywalking ticket, she's facing potentially 4 years in prison. And of course, I knew they would offer her a plea because they didn't want to put her in prison. I know you don't want to put her in prison. You're going to offer her a plea. And because she has no priors, you would make it so simple. All you got to do is plead guilty, and you won't have to go to prison. Probably won't even get a fine. If we do, it'll be minimal, $500, something like that. And as long as you keep your nose clean for 2 years or a short period of time, which should be easy, you've never gotten in trouble before, just don't get in trouble in the next 2 years, it's fine. No, it's not fine, because now she's got a record, and she's got a record which is a felony. You want to keep your record clean, people. Don't fall for that unless you have to, or unless you're guilty. Sometimes you have no choice but to fall for it because you can't defend yourself, and you end up not falling for it, and you end up going to trial and getting convicted and doing 4 years for something you did not do. So sometimes even innocent people cop the plea. I understand that. But she had an advocate on her side, and it was me. So she did not need to fall for that. Because I told her we're going to win the hard way or the easy way, but we're going to win because you've got me on your side and I know how to fight. That's what I do best. So she wouldn't take any plea even when it was offered. Because of me. No matter how easy they made it. No fine at all. We'll drop all the charges. Yeah, you might drop. I'm sorry, they didn't say they were going to drop the charges. They did drop the charges, which is what I wanted them to do. A plea would have been you plead guilty, which means that the charge sticks. You are guilty of a felony. That is incredibly powerful, and it's something you never want as a felony conviction. You don't even want a misdemeanor conviction on your record. I don't care if you have to pay 50 cents. That's your penalty. Do 2 seconds in the jail station without even going behind bars and sign something saying that you admit to being guilty of this felony. As easy as that might sound, you don't want to do it because you're still guilty of a felony. And when they look at your felony conviction, they don't care how much time you did or how much you did not do. You have a violent felony assault charge on your record, and it is a felony conviction. You are a violent felon. Doesn't matter if you did 20 years in prison for this felony conviction or if you did no time at all. It's still a felony conviction. Doesn't matter if it's for mass murder or if it's for spraying somebody with pepper spray. It's still a felony conviction. When somebody says, do you have a felony conviction? Your answer will have to be yes. And if you have a felony conviction, you know what you are? You are a felon. You know what a felon is? A felon is a person who has been convicted of a felony. If you have been convicted of a felony, then you, by default, are a felon. And you will always be a felon. It doesn't matter when you were convicted of that felon. You were convicted of a felony 30 years ago when you were 20. Now you're 50. You're still a felon. You are a felon. If you're on parole, you're a felon on parole. If you're a felon and you paid your debt to society, you're still a felon. Okay, let's do this. Just for further and additional edification. I put in the word felon on dictionary.com. And it's going to tell you a person who has committed a felony. Okay, that's clear enough. Exactly what I said. A person who has committed a felony. If you accept a felony conviction, you committed a felony. See? Now you might say, well, I did not actually commit the felony, so I'm not a felon. Yes, you are. Because you were convicted of the felony. And by being convicted of the felony, the conviction says that you committed the felony. Now you can go to court and say, I did not commit the felony, but I'm going to plead guilty to the felony to keep from having to face trial and possibly doing 4 years in prison. The lawyer guaranteed me that as long as I cop a plea, that I won't have to do any time in prison, and I also won't even have to pay a fine, and this whole thing will go away. No, you didn't understand it. It never goes away. You don't go to prison, you don't face a trial, but you have a felony conviction. And if you pleaded guilty to a felony, you are a person who has committed a felony, whether you actually committed it or not. It is not possible for you to plead guilty to a felony and then go around saying, I did not commit a felony. Yes, you did. You may have not actually committed it, but by definition of having a felony conviction, you are a felon. And by definition of what a felon is, it is a person who has committed a felony. And that's how you're going to be looked at. And that can haunt you for the rest of your life. It's something you don't want. It's something that jobs will ask you, have you ever been convicted of a felony? The only answer they want to hear is no. If you say yes, they want to know the story. If they've got two people that are equally qualified, one has been convicted of a felony, the other one has nothing on their record. And I don't care if you have only one felony conviction. There's a lot of people running around, they've got dozens of convictions, misdemeanors and felonies. Their record is as long as Shaquille O'Neal's arm. And that record follows them. There's other people, they've got one little conviction. They don't care about traffic tickets unless you're drunken and driving, because you may have to drive on the job. And even if you don't, you might have to drive to the job, and they don't want you, because if you've got a drunk driving conviction, that means you probably have a drinking problem. You just got caught while you were driving. So that's a negative for an employer. But jaywalking and even running a red light, things like that, they don't really care about that. They don't. But a felony of any type, they want to know, what's that about? So you have two employees, one with no priors at all. They're exactly the same in their experience, their background, the way they did the interview, where they went to school, education, everything else. The only difference is one of them has a felony conviction. And they gave an explanation for it. As good of an explanation as they could. The other one has no convictions at all. Who do you think they're going to hire? There's only one thing that separates the two. They like them equally or dislike them equally, whatever the case. But there's only one distinction. One has a felony, the other one has no priors at all. The one with no criminal background or record stands head and shoulders above the one that has a felony conviction.